Hey guys, normally we start off with something funny, something, maybe even a story or something, but unfortunately we've learned in the last few days that someone at our church had passed away. Aunt Jun had passed away, and yeah, we thought it was right for us to dedicate this next video to her. She was an amazing woman who loved God. And yeah, it was such a shock to all of us to hear that. I mean, how did you feel about it, Jay?
Yeah, look, we also want to dedicate this to her only daughter Jess as well, and who's going through year 12 and will be facing a very tough time at the moment. So our thoughts and prayers are definitely with you and the rest of your family, Jess. And yeah, look, we just I guess we should celebrate that. The pain for June is no longer, and she's now with a Heavenly Father. So, yeah, let's celebrate that. And yeah, so we dedicate this video to Aunty Jun and the memory of Aunty Jun and to Jess.
Hey guys, it's now websode 9. We hope you enjoyed the last one, which was the jazz clubbing one, and yeah, that's the sort of things we get up to, isn't it, Jamper?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so this is basically my testimony, and yeah, let's get started. Unlike Jam, I grew up in a very religious household. Because I actually, first few years of my life, I actually lived with my grandparents, and because my mum was always working, so was my dad. So I would spend most of the day with my grandparents. Then at home, if I was awake, I'll be with my parents. And most of the time, I wasn't usually awake. I would actually be asleep. That's just how it was back then. But I was baptized as a Catholic, and I was in and out of church for the majority of my life, up till about 2.5 years ago. And my journey really began when I was 3, because my grandmother was a very devoted Catholic woman. God rest her soul. She like, I've heard stories of like how she would get everyone out of bed, first thing 7 a.m. every Sunday to go to church, and which is St. Anthony's, which is in Caulfield, one of my old churches. Growing up in that sort of aspect, it's no secret, and Jody, if you're watching, this is definitely a plug at you. I love my hair, like, I really do, even if long, short, anything, I really love my hair. And I used to give flack to my dad because my dad was bald, isn't it? Don't you remember?
Yeah, he does have a good head of hair. I'm jealous. Look at my head of hair. Look at that.
See, Jam's going bald right now. I'm sort of bald.
It's really bad. Look at the other side. It's like Hugo weaving.
And I remember when I was 3, and I still don't I don't really regret this, because I'm really very protective of my hair. And growing up, a lot of people just used to grab my hair, just like, like that. And I still don't like it. Like, I bitch anyone when I have kids, They're
gonna have nice hair.
They're gonna have nice hair, but they're gonna be exactly like me. I don't particularly like people touching my hair. This priest came up to me. I think it was Father O'Malley or something. I can't remember. This came up to me. He's like, "Oh, hello, Daniel. How are you?" And he kept mucking up my hair. And it was just this one day, and I was about 3 or 4 when this happened. And my nan, she's just pretty much looking at the priest, just going, "Don't do it, don't do it." And eventually, he kept doing it. It was about a minute or so, and I headbutted him, but not just headbutted him in any place, but in his how do I say it politely?
Nether regions,
or gentleman's area, or
twig and two berries.
Twig and two berries, correct. Let's just say I wasn't really quite liked by that
His
church.
bishop, he hit him in his bishop. Alright, know. So what else can I? Just moving on. I don't want to have images of
Anyway, so I wasn't really liked at that church, but in such I was proclaimed little devil. My grandma used to call me that all the time, like, "Oh, you little devil," and I used to get smacked a lot. I was a bad kid. I was such a bad kid growing up. And then when my grandma got sick, I was about 3 or 4, because I was still living with them. But every now and again, I would go to Little Angels.
Woo, Little Angels,
and that's where I met Jam.
Crash.
So that was the really introduction to God in my life. And I remember from 5 to 7, I had this. I didn't have the Bible, okay, but I had a Jesus book. And it was essentially the Bible, but for kids. And I don't know why it was just called the Jesus book, but basically every night I'd read one page, and it was coloured pictures as well. And I would circle Jesus' name and write my name on there as well, to say that I've read it. I'll always remember this very well, because my mum and my dad were so pressuring of me to do that, to sort of know God, sort of know Jesus. That it's something that, I love to do with my kids, not force them upon them or anything, but just like let them, read it and sort of get to know them. So that was really good for my parents to do. And if you knew my dad wasn't really religious as such. He like, his religion was pretty much the Geelong Football Club. My dad was a fanatic, and this would go like, it's something that I think a lot of kids could benefit from, because I really started to learn and started to love God that way. And through my life, until I was about 10, I don't think I missed church the entire time. I know I've never missed a Christmas service ever, or an Easter service. But yet, as we go on, I've missed a lot of church in my life. But this is the first time I've never missed church in my life. And then, when I was 9 when this first happened. My dad was in a car accident when he was very young, and a spot on his brain had gone undetected for many years, and he went to hospital because he started having some kind of problem. So he eventually just, it was like he was like a vegetable, and I kept praying, and I was like, God, and he helped. The problem with all this was, I always thought God was a genie. And this is the problem. This is the problem that a lot of kids seem to have. And especially, when we were in school, like we went to Wellington Primary School, me and
Wellington Primary.
We had Christian
RE
come in, and I don't know what it was like for Jam, but for me it was like I already know this stuff, so I was really quite arrogant about it, and it's like I didn't know, but the stupid thing is they didn't tell us that you should be asking, when you pray, you should be asking for things that you need, not what you want, right? So I'll be praying, like, I remember, here's the stupid things when you're a kid. You pray to the friggin' Tooth Fairy. You pray to Santa. Right? What is up with that? Like, I don't know what got in my head as a kid, right? But I prayed to them. I don't know. But it was stupid things like that. I look back now and just go, what was wrong with me? Why wasn't I taught that properly? So this would go on for years. I would keep praying. And then when my dad did get sick, again, when I was 10 and a half, I remember he went to the hospital. And I thought, okay, he's going to be fine. Then on Thursday, now if you guys have watched websode 5, you would know that unfortunately my dad has passed on. Now, on the Thursday before he did pass away, I remember being sat in a room and remember just being, pulled up to a nurse with my sister Hazel and being told that my dad was probably not going to live. And I remember just sitting there with Hazel. I just ran out. I sat there with Hazel in this corridor, on the stairs. And I remember just praying so hard and saying, God, don't take my dad away, you know? And the moment my dad died, I died. Like, before all this, Jan will probably vouch for me for this. I was such a cocky little kid, right? I had all this confidence in me, right? The moment my dad died, that part of me died. I've never recovered from my dad's passing, right? And for a long time I blamed God and I blamed myself for my dad dying. And why did I blame myself? Because I remember the day before we had to go to the hospital to see him again. I remember the phone went off and I didn't answer the phone. It was about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I should have answered the phone because, you know, I would have spent a little bit more time with my dad. And what happened was my dad went into a coma. And, you know, I should have been there for the rest. But the only time before my dad died, he said, I'll see you when I get home. I'll see you in a few days. In many ways, heck, in most ways, I'm still waiting for my dad to come home. And the one thing that will always haunt me is when he snapped out of the coma for 2 seconds, his eyes went like this. Like that. And he went like that. And then he fell right back into a coma. That's probably the most scariest thing I've seen in my entire life. You know, later on, you know, I would realize that, you know, it was God's plan to take my dad, because if my dad had lived, he would have been a vegetable. Because before he died, there was no more brain activity, and that would have been that would have been very hard for my mum. And my mum is nearly 70 this year, right? So for her, it would have been extremely hard to take care of not only me but her husband, the love of her life. But it took some time. But as I said, I was dead. I was dead until I was reborn, literally. But in the midst of all this, when I was a kid, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story of what I used to be. What I used to be was, well, obviously, you know, I wasn't a really good kid, and my dad, my old man, smoked, and because I like girls, like I love girls. I've loved a lot of women. Not a lot of women have loved me back, obviously, you know. But I remember I was trying to impress the girl next door, and who was beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, you know. And her dad smoked as well. So what she used to do, she used to just light her dad's smokes, you know, put it in her mouth and then light it, you know. And I just went a little step further, and we just grabbed, you know, her dad's smokes, and yeah, we smoked them up, and I started smoking at 5 years old, and a few days went past, and it was like nothing, right? And eventually my dad caught me smoking, and I'll always remember how pissed he was. I've never seen my dad that angry. Ever.